The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, welcome along to the webinar today. How are you all doing? It's great to see you all in here. Could I just get a quick sound and screen check before we start? So you should be able to see my Convertri screen. It's the Getting Started webinar funnel. And if you could just let me know whether you can all hear me okay. And once we've got that confirmation, we can kick things off. Okay, it looks like everything is up and running as it should be then. So just to introduce myself before we start, my name is Dan and I work here at Convertri. I'm a member of the customer support team and you can see me on our website all the way at the bottom here. And as I said, I've been in customer support, so if you've ever had a support ticket with us or if you're in our Facebook group, you may have come across me before. It might be that some of you are completely new to Convertri, so you might not have any idea who I am. So just to put a face to my name, that is me there on screen. And what I'm going to be doing today is taking you through a demonstration of creating a simple lead funnel in Convertri so that we'll have something like this at the end, and it will allow us to fill in our name, email, sign up to this list where our details will then be sent to the autoresponder. We'll then be taken to the thank you page where we can download a lead magnet that we have set on that page. Once we've done that, I'll go through my favorite shortcuts in the Convertri editor, and then I'll also show you one of the things we've released to the app this week. And finally, we'll finish up with a question and answer session. So any questions you might have, I'll be sure to do my best to answer those at the end. Obviously, if there's anything that comes up during the demonstration, feel free to pop your question in the chat and I'll do my best to answer it. But other than that, we'll keep more general stuff for the end. So before I get started then, if I could just ask you all how familiar you feel with Convertri. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being that you've barely used it and 10 being that you're an expert, if you could just type that in to the chat or the questions box, what you think you are in terms of experience with Convertri. So between 1 and 10. Okay, we've got a couple of 1s in there, 3, a 6, a 4. I've also got some 2s. So we're about the right level then for this webinar, which is perfect. We can hopefully boost those numbers up by the end of today. Okay, so let's jump into the webinar then. Now, the demonstration without further ado. To start with, we're in our funnel. As I said, I've got my Getting Started webinar funnel here. So I'm now going to create my opt-in page. To do this, I'm going to click New Page. And as you can see here, we've got a load of templates, loads of different opt-in types, sales pages, checkout pages, all different kinds of Convertri pages here for you to choose from. These are our templates, so you can feel free to use any of these when you're building out your funnels. But what I'm going to do is create a page from scratch. And that is because I obviously want to show you the whole process. So I'm going to call this my opt-in page. And now that's been created, it's added to my funnel, and I can click Edit Page, which will open up the page editor. So now we're in the editor. This is where we can start creating our page. And the first thing that we want to do is add a background image. So to do this, we're going to use the elements tray on the left. This is where you add all the elements onto your pages. So in this case, we want an image. We can either click it or we can drag it like so. And that will open up the media gallery. Now what you've got here is all the images you've uploaded to Convertri in the past on your account. So as you can see, these are a selection of mine. And then you've also got the option to create folders, so you can organize things a little bit. And we also have a Pixabay integration option. What the Pixabay integration is it allows you to search for any image you like directly on Pixabay. These results will be returned in the media gallery where you can then choose an image and add it to your page. Now this is completely free of charge. You don't have to pay For this, it's included in your subscription, and the images are actually stock photos, so they don't actually come with, you don't have to pay, usage rights or anything like that. So it is completely free. So if someone could just type an object or an animal in the chat, then I'll just search this now and show you how it works. Okay, so we've got a tiger that's been suggested, and we're going to search that now. And what this is doing is it's actually pulling these images directly from the Pixabay site itself. So if you were to go to Pixabay and search for tiger, you'd be presented with these images as well. Now, the only downside to this is when you're adding these to your pages, the resolution is capped at 1920 by 1280. That is the maximum size that a Pixabay integration returns. So instead of doing that, we're going to make the most of Convertri's super fast loading speeds, and we're going to use an image with much higher resolution because the page speed won't actually be affected by that. So I'm going to go back to my home folder and I'm going to choose my image. As you can see, the resolution is far greater than that you would get with the Pixabay images, and then this won't slow the page down in any way. So I'm going to select that now and add it to my page. Now, to make this our background, we want to use this double-headed arrow, which is the full width tool. That's going to stretch it and snap it to the edges of the screen. And I can then use these drag handles at the top and at the bottom to resize the page like so. So this is now going to be the background for our page. It's going to cover most of the page there. Well, it will cover all of the page. And if you wanted it to be larger, you could do so by just grabbing the handles and pulling them down. So now we've got our image on screen. The next thing that I want to do is add a panel to the screen, and that is because I want to get this effect here. So I've got a top panel and I've got a bottom panel. Essentially, I've got a header and a footer. Now, the header and the footer is really just for design purposes. I think it bookends the page quite nicely, but also it allows you to have any links you might want to other pages, so such as a privacy policy, or maybe you have a contact us page or something like that that you want to put in there as well. So to do that, I'm going to add the panel from the elements tray. I'm then going to move it to the top. And again, I'm using the full width tool to expand it out to the edges. And this time I'm going to resize it so it's just the right size for my header. I don't want it to be too big like this, just a nice small size. Then I'm going to open the element properties for that panel. And this is where I can change certain things about the element. So for example, I can change the background. I can click on background, open the color picker, and from here I can choose from a wide range of colors. And what my favorite thing about this is, I'm going to show you it now, is that the changes that you're making actually appear on the live page as you're doing it. So you can see I'm starting off here from white, I'm going down through the reds, dark red, all the way down to the bottom and getting that black color. And now you can see those changes on the page. So you don't actually have to, put it to red, wait for it to apply, and then if you want to change it, you have to wait for those changes to be made. You can just do it nice and easily. Like I said, it's going to apply as you're doing it. So for this one, I'm just going to select sort of this beigey color, something nice and subtle. You can see you've got the different colors here and then the shades in the color picker. So once I'm happy with that, I can click select, and you'll see the RGB value will appear next to that. You can use this on any other element. Well, I mean, a panel, you wouldn't be able to use it on image, of course, but you could use it on a panel, even on text, and this would give you that exact same color. So that's one way of actually making sure you're getting the exact same colors. Another way of doing that is to clone the element, which is what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to select it and then choose clone. That's going to make an exact copy, which I can then drag down to the bottom, which will be my footer. So Ian's asking if there's a way to focus on a certain part of the image in order for it to be the background. So I think essentially what he's on about here is whether it be the middle of the image, the top, or the bottom. So you could do that by, dragging it like so. If you're stretching it up, it's going to get rid of the bottom. And if you're bringing it down, you're going to have the whole image. And then once you get to the maximum size of the image, it's then going to start to zoom in like so. So in that sense, you can kind of alter what part of the image is the focus. But if you're looking to have one certain part of it, the best way to do that would be to, crop it outside of Convertri and upload just that into the image gallery. Okay, so moving on then, we've now got our header and our footer on the page. So we can now start building out our form. And this is going to be the place on the page where our prospect enters their information. So once again, we're going to use a panel. And this is going to contain all of our text and our form elements. And we can resize it just like we did with the others. We're not going to use the full width because it's only for a certain section of the page. And now we've got this on here, we can start adding our text. So I'm going to add a text element and I'm going to enter my heading, which is 7 top tips for slimming without starving. And this, of course, relates to the lead magnet that we are offering to our prospects. So as well as a heading, I'm going to need some copy just to describe the lead magnet in a bit more detail so that people know what it is they are actually signing up for and opting into. And I am copying this off a piece of paper, guys, so for those of you who think I have got an incredible memory from just that page that I showed you at the start, I actually hate to disappoint you, but I am actually copying it from a piece of paper that I've got beside me, just so I can get the exact text that we have on our example page. Of course, this really depends on what it is you're offering. So feel free to, vary this text. Doesn't have to be in this style, but this is just for the purposes of the example. So we've got that on the page now, and we can add further text elements, which one is going to be a prompt for entering their details. And another one is going to be a bit of text, which basically is called spam text. And this is just to reassure the prospect that their details are essentially safe with us. So, some people don't like handing over email addresses or their name on the websites, which is obviously understandable. So just having something like that on your form is going to go a long way in reassuring them that actually you're not going to do anything malicious with their data. So that isn't like a legal requirement, but it's something that I would always recommend. And I've got a question in from Ralph, who has asked, does Convertri use a default style? And he's actually asked in particular, is that Roboto? And it is in fact Roboto. That's a good eye you've got there, Ralph. And I'm actually going to talk about default text styles a little bit more now. So it's a good question at a good time. Thank you for that one, Ralph. And what I'm going to show you here is how to set the default text styles for your pages. So as Ralph's pointed out, this is Roboto, and this is the default style on all Convertri pages, unless it's been preset before. So when you make a new page, this is what your text will look like. You can actually change this though, so that the rest of the text elements you add and the ones you've got on the page are all a different style, and you don't have to change them all individually. To do that, you can go to the page option, and then you can go down to default text styles on the left, and in here you can edit what the default text style is for the entire page. You have 3 different options here: paragraph, heading, and heading 2, and then a 4th, which is hyperlink. Now at the moment, these are all set to be paragraph, so if we make changes to this, which I'm going to show you now, they will actually change in the background. So if you keep an eye on this when I'm making the changes, you'll see them conform to the new text styles. So I'm going to change the font family to something else. So let's go with Lato. As you can see in the background, they've changed. And I'm then going to change the line spacing to 1.5, like so. You've got other options here, of course, alignments, font size and font weight. But for now, I'm just going to change those. I'm going to click done. And that's, as I said, going to have added the changes to my text elements. Obviously, at the moment, we would like a different style to be actually applied to our heading, because essentially, even though our heading is on the same form, we want it to stand out from the rest of the text a little bit. So we're going to go back into the page. Then on the default text styles, we're going to this time change heading. We're going to use a font that stands out. One that I like is Noto Sans, and we're going to make it bold so that it does stand out. And we'll put it to about 26 and keep the font weight bold, as I said, and the color black. And we'll then hit done. Now this time you'll notice that this hasn't changed anything, and that's because it's still set to the paragraph type. So to change this, we simply highlight the text, click the More drop down, and then change it to heading 1. And as you can see, that now conforms to the style for heading 1 that we've just set. So that's a really useful way to make sure your pages are looking, nice and professional. You've got the same text styles for each element of text you've got on your page. It's a really good trick to make sure your pages look, as I said, professional, and also that the design looks really clean, because you don't want too many different fonts on your page. So now that we've done that, we can add our form elements, and these are basically the elements that allow people to enter their information. So I'm going to click Form Elements. I'm then going to drag first name on. I'm also going to drag email on. And finally, I'm going to drag Submit onto the page. And the Submit one is the button that actually allows the form to be submitted. So you'll notice that these form elements aren't conforming to our page default text styles. That's because they are individually determined. So you have to do this for each one. To do that though, you just go into the element properties like we did for our panel. And then under input properties, you can change the text styling for each of them. So we can match it up to our form. We can change this to Lato, and the same for the email as well. You can change the placeholder text if you want to. So enter your email address, for example. If you wanted to have it read like that instead, that will then be reflected here. Finally then, the submit button, we want this to look like our heading so it stands out. So we're going to go to button settings. The mode needs to be set to sign up, because this is going to submit our form and sign the prospect up. We have a variety of different modes here. A couple of them I'll cover later on in the demonstration. The label we can change to download now, because essentially they are going to be clicking this button to get their lead magnet. So even though they won't be downloading it from the click of this button, because this will take them to a thank you page, the call to action in this case is a download. We'll change the font weight to bold and the family to Noto Sans again. And we'll increase the size slightly, just so it stands out. Okay, so that is looking a lot better now, a lot more like an opt-in page and a lot like our example. You will notice though that this form here is looking a lot neater than R1 at the moment. And partly that is because we've just thrown everything on the page, and it's also because I haven't given it enough room to breathe. So I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger like so and move it up a tad. But the main thing we want to change here is to make sure that all the elements are looking nice and neat. So one thing we can do to actually do that is use Convertri's alignment tools. Now you'll notice that when I've selected the panel and moving the panel around, the rest of the elements are coming with it. So if I do that now, it means I'm also applying things to these elements. So when I go to our alignment tools here and click the drop down, if I click center align, what this is going to do is align all of these elements within our panel to the center of that panel. So if you watch them closely, I click the button and they will snap to the middle, as you can see. And I've also got some other options in here which will be quite useful to us. So I'm going to move the text down slightly first, just so it's not in the way of the heading. And similarly, I'm going to move the spam text to the bottom. And I'm going to move the download now as well as the email address, like so. Okay, now you can see that it does take a bit of time to do this with the keyboard arrows, and it's hard to know exactly whether or not the gap between your elements is exact and precise. So one thing I want to do is use another one of the alignment tools, which in this case is going to just be applied to these three elements. So to do that, I'm going to click one and shift click the other two to select them as well. Go to the alignment tools and click distribute vertically. And what this does is it puts the exact amount of space between the elements for each element, like so. One final thing I want to do is just edit these individual text elements. So even though they're set to the default style, I can make individual changes to them, which is useful for elements of text that you don't really want to draw too much attention to, like these. And I'm going to then align the form so that it's to the center. And I'm just going to align this to the center of this text element as well, using the alignment tools just for that element. Okay, so my form's looking pretty much done. I'm just going to make some minor design changes to it. For that, I'm going to go back to element properties, to my background, and open the color picker again, but this time I'm going to be changing the transparency, which is this bar on the right. I can do this by dragging down, like so, to make it more transparent, or I can type in the value that I want applied. So you'll see when it's on 0, it's completely see-through. Of course, I can't actually now read the text, so I'm going to type in 0.75, and that's going to give it a nice look. And now I'm just going to add a border to the edges. And I want this border to be applied to all corners, so I'm going to tick on this toggle, and then I can either use the arrows, and as you can see it's applying it, or I can type in the level of border that I want. So we'll go for 25. Okay, so my form is looking pretty good. I'm really happy with that. And I'm just going to now add my privacy policy link onto the footer, and that is going to be my desktop page done. So to do that, I'm going to add another text element, type out privacy policy. As you can see, it's matching the default styles. I'm going to align that to the center and align the element to the page center, like so. And I'm then going to add a hyperlink to this bit of text. So that's by highlighting and then using the hyperlink. I can then add my link. This can be the link of your privacy page or any other page that you want it to be. So I think the Convertri one is /privacy. And I'm going to make sure it's opening in a new tab because I don't want to lose any prospects to a leaky link, which is what essentially this is on my page. So if they click this and we have this toggle turned off, they might not come back to my opt-in page, and that means I've lost them as a prospect. So by opening it in a new tab, the opt-in or the sales page always remains open in their browser. So that is essential when you're building out pages which have leaky links on them. So we'll click save, and that is our desktop page done, but we do need to move on to mobile. Before I do that, I can see I've got a question here from Raina, and it's about adding an action to the download now button. So if you're referring to actually adding, the download feature to it, we're going to cover that on the thank you page. So you will be able to actually have it so that when someone clicks the button, the file is downloaded. So don't worry, we will cover that on the thank you page because that is the page where they'll be downloading the lead magnet. So before we move on to the thank you page, we're just going to check the mobile version. As you can see, Convertri has created this for us automatically. It's looking pretty much identical to our desktop page, which is perfect. That's partly because I've built the page out with mobile in mind, which is something I'm going to talk to you about later in the editor section. But if I did want to make changes to the mobile page, I could do so. So for example, if I wanted to swap around the heading with the main text, I could do that. And if I go back to desktop, it's actually the same. It hasn't been edited because of my mobile edits. It's remained the same as we designed it. So if we go to mobile and then hit remobilize, that's going to rerun the automatic mobile conversion, which essentially puts it back to what it was before. So that is mobile editing briefly. We'll talk about it a bit more in detail later, as I said, but for now I'm happy with this page. I'm not going to publish it just yet because I haven't set my form up, I haven't connected it to my autoresponder, but before I do that, I need to build out my thank you page. So I'm going to go back to my funnel, and instead of creating a new page, this time I'm going to clone my opt-in page. And that's because I want it to look exactly the same. So for those of you who might have missed that, it's menu, more, and then clone. And then I just give it a name. And as you can see, it's an exact copy of the opt-in page that I've created, which is useful because, of course, that again keeps the house style consistent, the design's the same, and prospects that end up on the thank you page know they're in the right place. So I'd always recommend cloning your opt-in page to make your thank you page, or at least having it somewhat similar. So I am going to need to do a few edits for this. For that, I'll open up the editor again, and we'll just need to remove the bits of text on our form that aren't really relevant anymore. So such as the descriptive copy, we can edit this out to make it say something like click below to download your free guide. And we can delete the enter your details prompt along with all of our form elements. We need to keep, though, the download now button because, of course, that is the button that is going to be clicked by prospects to download the guide. So I'm going to move this up like so. Now that pink line there that you could see, was actually it snapping to the middle. That one there, so that is now aligned to the center of the panel. If I now move this up, I can drag this down into the center of the page, like so. Okay, so we do need to change the mode of the download now button. And to do that, we select it and then go to button settings. And here we change it to download. And what this means is we can attach a file to the button. We just do this by clicking on the select file icon. It's going to bring up our file library, which is similar to our media gallery, and then has any files you've uploaded for all of your domains, or you can upload a fresh one. Now, files are limited to 40 megabytes, so if you have one that is larger than that, you'll need to upload it somewhere like Amazon S3 would be my recommendation, a self-hosting site where basically you can have it hosted and then generate a link for it. And then instead of changing the mode to download, you would change the mode to link and put that link in the box. In this case, though, we're going to be uploading it to Convertri Direct. So we can click the file and then click select. And that now is going to have applied this file to this button. So essentially, all we need to do is publish our page now, and we are good to go for our thank you page. I'm just going to change the color of the button because I want it to look a little bit different. We won't go for a lime green, we'll go for like a dark green. That looks quite nice. And then, like I said, we're going to publish the page, and we're going to call it thank you. Yeah, if you wanted to have the link go to somewhere like Dropbox or Google Drive, that's perfectly okay. It would take them there. Somewhere like that, though, it might then need, they might need permission. I'm not sure how they both work in terms of whether a link can allow them to go straight to the file or whether they need access to the folders. So you'd have to look into that, but you could put a link there to Dropbox or Google Drive in the link box. It essentially would come up pretty much like the download box, but it would just be the space for you to add the link. Okay, so that's now published our thank you page, which means we can finalize our funnel by setting up our opt-in form. Before I do that, I'm going to make sure my arrow is connecting the pages. Now, this doesn't actually connect them in practice. All it does is basically tells Convertri that these two pages want to link together. So when we set up our form, it's going to automatically suggest this page as our redirect URL, which is helpful because I now don't have to remember the URL for my thank you page, which I'm happy to tell you that I have forgotten on countless occasions when building funnels before. So I definitely recommend using that arrow. It's going to really save you a lot of headaches. Okay, so to set up our form, we simply click on the Form button. Here we can select our autoresponder. In this case, I'm going to use MailChimp. Of course, you've got an option of loads of different integrations here. And I'm then going to choose my target list. Once I've done that, you can see the fields here, and these need to match the fields that I set up here. So at the moment, first name is website, so I need to change that to first name because that is the field type for first name, the first name form input. Now, email is already fixed, but that would need to be the same if it wasn't the case. So once I've done that, I can click next. And as you can see, it's suggested the thank you page. And if any other arrows were linking it out to other pages, these would also be here as well. So I can then click done. That's going to make the page redirect. And if you just wanted to wonder what I was referring to with the form field settings, if we go to element properties, you can see here the field type's first name. And so that's what I need to have in my form menu. So they need to be matching. Otherwise, Convertri won't know where to put the data in my autoresponder. Okay, so we've got a question about what if your autoresponder service, your mail system, it's not on our integration list? That's a perfectly good question. We do, however, have a workaround for that, and this is in the form of our HTML forms. So if I open up the form menu, you'll see here we've got a HTML form option. At the moment, it's unavailable because I've connected my API autoresponder. But if I hadn't done that, it would essentially bring up a dialog where I could add HTML code, which I would get from the autoresponder that I was using. And that then puts the form on the page in that way. So if we don't have an integration with a service, you can always use the HTML forms option. But you will need to get the HTML code from that third-party service. So it would be depending on whether they provide that or not. Okay, now that's done, I can publish my opt-in page as well, like so, and that is going to take us to the completion of the demonstration. So I'll go through and view the published page for you and show you the example. So if we click view page, it's going to load our page pretty much instantly. Like I said, that the image size isn't going to hurt us at all there. And then I can enter my details like so. Click download now. It's going to send the form off. I'll be added to the autoresponder list and I'm taken to the thank you page where I can then download the lead magnet. So that is a simple lead funnel, guys, from start to finish. I hope you enjoyed that demonstration. And if you've got any questions on anything you've seen specifically in the demonstration, feel free to ask me now and I'll run through those before we move on to the new feature that I want to show you in the app. Okay, I've got a question about the arrows that I set up for my page. So I might have gone through that bit slightly fast, so I'll show you that again. Apologies. Essentially, if you want to link a page like so and have it remember your URL, you just need to click this arrow and then have it over the page like so and then release it and it will connect. So if we do it for this one at the end, like so, it's now connected to this page as well. And then to get rid of it, you can just click the X. No problem, Marcus. I'm glad that has cleared that up for you. Okay, so I'm going to now show you something new that we've added into Convertri. It is a great new template set and it's really easy to find. All you have to do is open up a funnel that you've got and then click new page. And the new template that we've added, or the new template set that we've added, is a gym template set. So if you type in gym, you'll see all the pages that are on offer here, like so. So if you have a gym business or know someone that does, this is a ready-made funnel. But you can also adapt it to any other business, of course. The main thing here is that just like our other templates, you've got all these pages built out already. So if we click select on the opt-in page, I'll show you that now. It's going to look pretty similar to the one we've just built out. In this case, I think we've got a video on the page. But as you can see, it's got a nice simple sign up form. It's got a really nice design to it. The design team have done a great job. It's even got some extras here, you know, about the gym, which of course, as I said, you could change. If you had a restaurant, you could edit the images. But what you've got here is a really nicely designed page, laid out really professionally. And all you'd have to do is make a few changes and it would be usable for any business that you have or are looking to set up, or if you've got a client that has a business and you're making pages for them. So back to the funnel now. I'm going to move on to the editor tips and tricks section, which is probably the most important part of the webinar because it shows you not only shortcuts, which are going to save you time, but also I'm going to talk about how to mobilize or build pages, I should say, that mobilize well. So I'm going to open this page here. And essentially what this page is a template that we have in the app. It's called Coffee. So if you search coffee, just like I did with Jim, it will come up. But what we've done is we've left it slightly unorthodox in the way that it's built so that I can show you that and how to improve that on these webinars. So to start off with though, before we jump into that, I'm going to just show you some really cool shortcuts in the editor that will save you time and hopefully make things a lot easier for you. The first of which is using this display tab to turn on element outlines. What this is done is basically put a pink line on the edges of all the elements we have on the page. And this is really useful because what this does is not only does it tell you, how big your elements are, like so you can see, it also tells you if they're overlapping with other elements. So if we had the coffee one like so, it tells you that actually this is overlapping with the text below. So for me, that's really useful because it allows you to design your pages a lot smoother. They're not going to be, a lot really messy because you've got these guides to tell you where to put things so that they're not overlapping. It's also practically very useful because now I've got these outlines, I know where on the page I need to click to select this element. So for example, with the text here, I might think that it stretches all the way out here. And if I click that, it's actually going to select the panel. But with these outlines, I know to click within this box if I want to select that element specifically. So that's something I'd recommend turning on each time you start building a page because it's just going to make things easier. And if any elements get lost, maybe at the bottom of the page down here, you'll be able to see them because they'll have those lines around them. The next thing I'm going to show you then is how to get rid of an entire section on a page. So this is especially useful if you're going to be using templates, any Convertri templates you have or pages you might import into the app, because you might not want everything that is on there. So in this case, I don't really want this menu section here. So what I'm going to do is select the background panel that's containing all these elements. So you can see I've selected the black panel. And then all I'm going to do is either click the delete button on my keyboard or this delete selected icon here. And that gets rid of everything else that is included in that section. So I haven't had to click through each element and delete them all one by one. I can do that with just one click of a button. Now we of course have got a problem because we've now got this white space on the page, but not to worry, we do have a shortcut for that as well. And it's nice and easy to use. All you need to do to clear white space in a Convertri page is select the element below the white space. So in this case, it's our white panel here. And then you just need to click remove white space above this icon here. And what that's going to do is snap it up to the nearest element. So you'll see now, if I click the button, I'm still selecting that panel. That's brought it up to clear the white space. So it's completely got rid of that, which again, it's going to save you time because you haven't had to move everything up one by one or just drag the elements up. You've been able to do that just with one click. But of course, you might also want to create space on a page. So it may be the case that you want to add another section. So similar to how I've just removed white space, you essentially want to create some. That's not a problem though. This is easily done, and you don't have to move every element down the page one by one. Instead, just select the backing panel, hold Shift. So this is the backing panel of the element I want to be below the white space now. Then hold Shift and drag, and that's going to drag not only the entire contents of this panel down, but it's also pushing the rest of the page down with it. So essentially, you're therefore moving the whole page down. And I've got a question in about these blue lines here, and that is a great question from Ralph, because what these blue lines are is they're simply guidelines. They don't actually have an effect on the page at all. So you'll notice when I published my pages in the lead funnel that I just built, they don't display on the live page. But what they actually are is they're really to help you understand what area of the page is going to be seen on the live version. Now, they are just guidelines. So when they were set up, 5 years ago when we started Convertri, this was, probably the average screen size or just a little bit smaller than it. So this is essentially the safe zone. Anything within these lines will 100% show on every desktop screen. But the screen sizes are generally a bit bigger than that now. So if you wanted to edit the outline, guideline, for just peace of mind, you could increase it by clicking display and going on guideline width and then using the arrows, or you can type one in like so, and you can then restore the default guidelines. But what they basically are is a safe zone. So you can be confident that the ones we have set up at the moment will display on the actual page. Anything within them will display on the actual page. Of course, as I said though, anything probably to about where my mouse is here is definitely going to display on most screens. Okay, so we've now seen how to use the shift click. Just to refresh, it's like hold shift and click, and you can either drag things up or move things down and they'll come as one. The next shortcut I'm going to show you is the alt click shortcut, and this is essentially the same as the cloning tool. Now, I showed you this on the demonstration, but I'm going to show you how to do this with a keyboard shortcut, because if you are designing pages and you're right at the bottom, you might not want to select the element and go all the way up to the top. Time is money, so you want to be saving as much of it as possible, and that's why you would use this shortcut. And to do that, you just select the element you want to clone, hold Alt on your keyboard, and then just drag, and that's going to drag out an exact clone of the element. So once again, Alt and drag will give you an exact clone of the element you've selected. Like so. Okay, now I showed you some of the alignment tools on our form in the demonstration earlier. I'm going to show you a couple more now and how they can really be utilized to basically tidy up your pages if you've got a lot of rogue elements like so. All you need to do is contain them within a panel. So I'm adding the panel to the page. I'm then using my element guidelines as reference, because now I know where to resize it so that these elements are contained. And I'm then going to send it to the back like so, and then slowly bring it forward so that it's now behind all of these elements and therefore is containing them all. So now I've done this, any alignment tool features that I apply to this panel will also apply to the elements within it. So I've selected the panel. Again, these are the alignment tools. I'm going to click the drop down, and in this case I'm going to use middle align, which will align it to the vertical middle instead of the horizontal middle, like so. You can see that would be here, and then I'm going to click justify horizontally, which will essentially put even space between all of these images, which now makes it look a lot neater. So those tools are really key if you're trying to make your pages look neat, and which, obviously I would recommend, because that gives your pages a professional look. So they are going to be key when you're building pages in Convertri. Okay, so the last thing then, guys, that I'm going to show you today is probably the most important thing that I will talk to you about when actually building pages in Convertri, and that is to do with the mobile algorithm, and it's to do with how the mobile algorithm reads Convertri pages, and it's also to do with how you can build out pages on desktop that will mobilize well for you. So if any of you have experience with page builders or with Convertri before, you might know that if you've built a page out and you haven't been paying attention to that sort of stuff, that it can come out a little bit skew with in the mobile version, which means you have to do a bit of work to get it how you want it to look. And obviously, like I said, we're trying to save as much time as possible, which is why we want to be building our pages in desktop so that they mobilize well. Now, in order for me to show you how to do this, I'm going to just give you a quick overview of how the algorithm reads Convertri pages and how it comes up with these automatic conversions. So the way it does this is it's imagine that the algorithm is reading the page like a book. So it's on your page and it's reading this background panel here. It's then going to read the logo next, and then the "we are open," then the image, then bread, pastry, and coffee. So like I said, it's like a book. It's reading everything that's at the top to the bottom, left to right, like so. It then displays these images, or these elements, I should say, on the mobile version in that order. Which is why, if you look at this page here, we of course want bread and the text about it to be together, because that's how a user would read the page, just like for pastry and just like for coffee. However, if we go to the mobile version, you can see, if we scroll back up to the top, that it's actually put these together in sort of sections. So it's put all the titles first and then all the texts after that together grouped. Now, if you didn't know about how to build a mobile page well, you might get something like this, which means you're going to have to move it around manually, which can take a lot of effort. It can be maybe frustrating at times if you're moving it over another element and then you can't select it. And that's why it's really important to build the page out from the get-go so that you're mobilizing it well. So to do this, it's really all about containment, and that is just using panels like I've shown you already to make sure that the elements you want displayed together, like these two, for example, are actually displayed, well, just like that together. So by using a panel, it's going to know that these two are one and the same. Now, Ralph, I can see you've asked about the send back and bring forward tools. I'm going to show you that again now, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. So I'm adding the panel and I'm resizing it. And at the moment, it's sitting over the top of these two elements. So I want to send it. I can either send it backwards, which will go backwards once or twice, or I could send it to the back, which will put it behind every element on the page. So I can then use the bring forward tool to bring it forward in front of the next element. So essentially these tools are useful for ordering elements so that you can have certain ones in front of the other, which we of course need here because we need our panel to be behind these two elements. I'm going to add another one, like so. Again, I'm going to make sure that I'm sending it backwards twice so that it's behind those two, and a third for the coffee section. Now I've left the panels grey to show you where they are on the screen so that you can see them. I'll change one of them so that it's transparent though, just to show you that you can edit this. Like with the panel on the opt-in form, you don't have to have this set to the automatic color. So I've done that and I've hit select. I now go to my mobile version and you're going to see that this has built the page out differently now I've got my panels on there. So if we remobilize, and remobilizing it is essentially putting it back to what it would automatically generate the page as, which now shows us that we've got these grouped because they're contained within the panel. So just like that, by using this one element, a panel, we've built a page that is going to mobilize a lot better because we don't have to actually edit these now. These are displayed as we want. If someone comes and they want to read about bread, they can. They can also read about pastry and coffee. They don't have to think, oh, bread, pastry, coffee, and then read about them all separately. So I hope that has been useful for you guys. That tip there about mobile building, building pages out so that they mobilize well. I think, as I said, it's probably the most important thing that I tell people about when using Convertri, just because you can spend so much time building out a page on desktop only for you to then realize that it hasn't mobilized well. So it's really important to know how to make sure it's going to, you're building it out so it's going to mobilize the best it possibly can. So that's going to be the end of the presentation here. I hope that you've enjoyed that, and I'm of course now happy to answer any questions that you might have about anything I've shown you today or about anything else for Convertri related, account wise, anything to do with the editor. Fire away, and I'm here to help you out, of course. So Ralph's asking if it's best to use panels in desktop. Yes, essentially what I mean is use panels basically anywhere you can if you want to have things displayed together. Now, when you're building the page out in desktop, you're always going to start in desktop, so you wouldn't build out the page in mobile. You can't actually do that. So the mobile version is just the desktop version for mobile. It's not actually, editable in the sense that I can't add an image to my mobile version from the mobile editor. I could add a panel or an image that I wanted only to be visible on mobile. So let's say this image here, if I didn't want this displayed on the desktop version of my page, I could just click desktop so that it was turned off. It's now gone. But if I go to mobile, because that's left on, it's still here like so. And then I can turn it back on like so. Okay, and I can see your question in there. I can't quite see your name who's asking it, so apologies for that. Referring to an email address with Google Suite and having the code so that they can verify it. That sounds like something we're going to need to look at into your account specifically, so you'd be best to email support with that one. I've got the email for you here and I'll post it in the chat. It's support@convertri.com. So you should all have got that now in the chat. And if any of you have got more specific questions about your own account or issues you're having, you'd be best to email to support so that we can take some more time to look into them. And I can see a question there from Lucy asking about a question, about connecting a site to WordPress. Now you can do that a couple of ways. We've got our WordPress plugin, or we've got the option to connect it on a subdomain. So what I'll do is I'll drop that in the chat, the help guides we have about that. So if many of you might not be aware, we have got a whole knowledge base. It's called help.convertri.com. I'll drop that in the chat, and I'll also search for you, Lucy, the WordPress WordPress articles. Here you go. These are going to help you if you're looking to connect your opt-in pages, your funnels to WordPress. But essentially, it's something that you'll probably need to just, have a read about and see what's the best option for you. We do have a WordPress plugin, but because it's loading the page twice within an iframe and then back again in Convertri, it's going to slow that process down a little bit, so you won't actually get the benefits of Convertri. So you're better off to connect it through a subdomain. But as I said, read through those guides, and if you've got any questions about that, email in support and we'll be able to help you through that process. Okay, and I can see another question there about how much hours of video approximately is 100 gigabytes. I'm not actually too sure, if I'm perfectly honest with you. I guess it would depend on the video. So I don't think that's going to be something that I'm going to be able to answer, I'm afraid. If you're looking to purchase extra bandwidth, you'd need to contact support about that, because it's something that would only be available on request. It isn't something that we usually offer. 100 gigabytes is going to do you for, especially per month. That should have you covered. So it isn't really something we are used to giving out extra bandwidth. So if you think you're going to go over, or you have gone over, then just contact support and we'll be able to help you with that. But like I said, 100 gigabytes per month should stand you in pretty good stead, even if you've uploaded quite a lot of videos. Ralph's asked how we can add a page to our templates. I'm not quite sure what you mean there, Ralph. Are you able to explain that a little bit more for me, just so I can try and help you out? Excellent, thank you. And add a guess, what I'm going to guess while you're typing. Sorry if I guess wrong while you're typing, but I think you mean, can you add these pages here to the template section so you can just select them? Is that what you're sort of referring to? I see. Yes. So, I mean, we don't actually have a functionality to do that at the moment. That is a good idea, though. So I'll pass that on to the product team after this webinar. But the way you would do that essentially is by using the clone feature. So you would just click more and then click clone. You can share it. You can move it to a new funnel. So if you wanted to clone a page, for example, say you like this opt-in page, I'm going to clone it again. And then I could actually move it to another funnel so that I could use it again on a different project. To do that, I would just click the three-dot menu again, then click move to, and here I can select any other funnel that I might have. So in this case, let's just go to the home repair template. If I move that over, it'll take me straight there, and here it is within this funnel. So while we don't have the option to add it and select it directly from the templates, as long as you've got the page in your account, you can clone it and move it wherever you like. Exactly, you could have a complete funnel which was dedicated to your own templates. So for example, I could have this one called, my templates, and just have all the pages in there that I like. And then from there, I'd be able to clone them and move them, etc. No problem, Ralph. Okay, so it looks like we're coming to the end of the questions then for today, guys. Of course, if you do have any other queries when you get off the webinar later in the evening or even next week, whenever it is you're using and thinking about Convertri, feel free to email us at the support email. We also have a Facebook group. For those of you who don't already know, I will quickly show you that now and drop the link into the chat like so. And in here we have loads of different levels of users. We've got members of staff. You can see Honor has posted a video. We've got a great wealth of, information about Convertri. If you've got any queries, you can always ask a question in here as well as to us at support. And of course, then you've got the knowledge base as well. Okay, so that is going to do it for today, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you very much for coming as always. And for those of you who are wondering, we will have a replay up shortly for the webinar. It will probably be on Monday, and it will be in the knowledge base under the Getting Started Webinars section. So if you want to go over it again, then you can feel free to enter this section of the knowledge base where you'll find the webinar replay. Okay, so thank you all again. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you around soon, whether it be on support or in the Facebook group. And I'm looking forward to helping you guys out with anything you need regarding Convertri. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you all very soon.